Beneath thy trees, within thy halls, dear college, we give praise to thee, to pledge ourselves whate'er befalls, to pledge unfailing loyalty. Our hearts are with thee, dear William and Mary, however far we stray. Our noble college, hear us now, thy children sing to thee today. Dear college, old in years and fame, and richly old in honors too, time shall not dull the shining name, whose gleam our songs will e'er renew. And as years go by, dear William and Mary, thy fame will never cease. But each new year rejoice to see thy children's praise to thee increase. We honor thee not for our gain, but to make known thy majesty, thy truth and courage that remain, however harsh the fates may be. As through troublous years, dear William and Mary, our country fought, so thou hast fought, and won and lived to hear thy children singing to thee now. O thou our guardian and our guide, renew our courage every hour, and keep thy spirit by our side, to aid us with his watchful power.
Please sit. William and Mary people, friends, everyone, welcome to Charter Day 2013. We have gathered to celebrate the college's 320th birthday. Let's kick off today's celebration by saluting faculty members who commemorate the disciplines that emerged from dramatic, I emphasize, dramatic changes to the curriculum at William and Mary in 1779, changes that were spurred by Thomas Jefferson when he was governor of Virginia and a member of our Board of Visitors. These 1779 disciplines were classical studies, law, mathematics, modern languages, philosophy, and physics. Faculty members from these disciplines, please stand and bask in applause. King William and Queen Mary granted a royal charter to the college on February the 8th, 1693. Since today is February the 8th, it is exactly 320 years since we were created. And as is our annual habit, we now revisit the text of the college's seminal document. William and Mary students will read excerpts from the charter. Then Dylan Front, class of 2014, will share his reflections on the charter, his personal reflections. And then our choir will sing.
William and Mary, by the grace of God, of England, Scotland, France, and Ireland, King and Queen, defenders of the faith, to all to whom these our present letters shall come, greeting.
For as much as our well-beloved and faithful subjects, constituting the General Assembly of our colony of Virginia, have had it in their minds and have proposed to themselves, to the end that the Church of Virginia may be furnished with a seminary of ministers of the gospel, and that the youth may be piously educated in good letters and good manners, and that the Christian faith may be propagated amongst the Western Indians, to the glory of the Almighty God.
To make, found and establish a certain place of universal study, or perpetual college of divinity, philosophy, languages, and other good arts and sciences, consisting of 1 president, 6 masters or professors, and 100 scholars more or less, to be supported and maintained for all time coming.
And for as much as our well-beloved trustee, the General Assembly of our colony of Virginia aforesaid has humbly supplicated us by our well-beloved in Christ, James Blair, clerk, their agent duly constituted, that we would be pleased not only to grant our royal license,
but also to extend our royal bounty and munificence towards the erection and foundation of the said college, in such way and manner as to us shall seem most expedient.
And being desirous that forever hereafter there should be one such college or place of universal study, and some certain and undoubted way within said college for the rule and government of the same, and of the masters, of professors, and scholars, and all others inhabiting and residing therein, and that the said college should subsist and remain in all time coming of our special grace.
That they may have power to erect, found, and establish a certain place of universal study, or perpetual college for divinity, philosophy, languages, and other good arts and sciences.
Consisting of 1 president, 6 masters or professors, and 100 scholars more or less, graduates and non-graduates, as above said, according to the statutes and orders of the said college, to be made, appointed, and established upon the south side of York River, on the land now in possession of John Smith, to continue for all times coming.
And further, we will, and for us, our heirs and successors by these presents do grant, that when the college shall be erected, made, founded, and established, it shall be called and denominated forever the College of William and Mary in Virginia, and that the president and masters or professors shall forever be called and denominated the president and masters or professors of the College of William and Mary in Virginia. In testimony whereof, we have caused these our letters to be made patent. Witness ourselves at Westminster, the 8th day of February in the 4th year of our reign, by a writ of the Privy Seal.
For people, physical reflections are a consistent reminder that the body that is given to us weathers with age and time. Reflections remind us that the invincibility of youth is the illusion of the dreamer, and the reality of growing older is an inescapable faith that binds us all together as human beings and creatures of common cause. Mental reflections are the opposite. Mental reflections allow us to glimpse into our infinite past, forever suspending our most tantalizing thoughts and our deepest desires. Mental reflections allow us to pause and give a moment and remember those that we have lost. Mental reflections are the charters of our lives. They contain the permanently etched words out of our hearts and souls that we can read over and over and over again until we can make sense of the world around us. The Charter of the College of William and Mary officially dates to the 8th of February, a day strikingly close to my birthday on the 5th. When I sit down and think about the Charter and what it means for all of us sitting here, I like to imagine that exactly 299 years before I was born, William and Mary was going through its own incubation period, with the thoughts and dreams of grand thinkers and learners prepared to be written into being. When I seriously reflect on the Charter and its text, I am drawn to portions 6 and 7. These parts give the initial president and professors of our college the power and responsibility to govern, and then it unites them all together under a common seal. And that's why we're here, isn't it? We are people from so many different lands and with so many different stories, united under a common seal while we learn how to govern our lives and how to do it in a responsible manner. We are learning to push the boundaries of what we know, and we are learning to push the boundaries of what we understand. And we're meeting people, and we're not just befriending them, we're sharing our lives with them. We're maintaining the reputation of a school that marches on past the competition to maintain a position of recognition and prestige. We are William and Mary. Our original charter, the very old document, was lost sometime around the American Revolution. William and Mary was not. William and Mary marched on through centuries and endured the trials and tribulations of 13 colonies that became the most powerful country in the world, and endured a history of triumph and setback. The copies of the charter that we have remind us that sometimes the words and ambitions of people centuries ago can reach through the centuries and endure the test of time. William and Mary has endured that test. And here we are today. Here we are, at a school steeped in history and tradition, and here I stand a little nervously before you, able to reflect upon an institution far grander than I ever imagined I would be attending. Because on a very personal level, the Charter, Charter Day, and William and Mary remind me how very, very lucky I am. Today I am reminded that I am the first person in my family of 23 first cousins and 10 second cousins and a lot of other people to go to college, and that I'm attending what has been called the best college in the galaxy. I am reminded that the first kiss of my adult life was outside the side door of Monroe Hall. And even better, that the man that I kissed in the shadow of Monroe Hall is the man that put a ring on my finger and I'm engaged to and I'm going to marry. That's right. I am reminded that this school and this place have brought me to the person up there that I care so very deeply about, and have brought me new friends and new opportunities that I could never have imagined as a child. I am reminded that words have power and meaning, and words form actions, and actions build opportunity, and opportunity builds hope, and hope is contagious, and it ignites everyone's minds like wildfire, and it raises up people who are often cast down and left aside. On this day, I am reminded of how special this place is, and I am so thankful that the words of our charter created a school that has reached through the centuries and placed me right here on this stage before all of you today. One day, when I look in the mirror and the inevitably older, more weathered, just as tired-looking person looks back at me, I'm gonna be able to smile with my teeth, hopefully, who knows, close my eyes, and reflect upon the school that has quite literally made my hopes and dreams come true. Happy 320th birthday, William and Mary. Thank you, everybody.
Every time I feel the Spirit in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. On the mountain, my Lord spoke. Out his mouth came fire and smoke. Down in the valley, on my knees, ask my Lord, have mercy, please. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Jordan River, chilly cold, chills the body, not the soul. All around me looks so fine. Ask my Lord if all was mine. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Ain't but one train on this track, runs to heaven and right back. St. Peter waiting at the gate, said, come on, sinner, don't be late. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I say. I will pray, I will pray, I will pray. I will pray.
Since 1756, when Benjamin Franklin was awarded an honorary Master of Arts, the College of William and Mary has recognized lives of powerful accomplishment through the conferral of honorary degrees. We add one eminently worthy member to that roster today. I ask Rector Jeff Trammell and Chancellor Robert Gates to present the honorary degree.
Lois Critchfield, will you please join us? Lois Matthews Critchfield, yours is a life spent abroad in devoted service to your country, and then in sharing the wisdom gained through those decades of experience. Your boundless enthusiasm for the Wendy and Emery Reeves Center for International Studies and robust encouragement of Middle Eastern studies at William & Mary have made a telling difference at this college. During nearly 3 decades with the Central Intelligence Agency, you spent many years living in the Middle East. Alongside your late husband, Jim, who also worked for the agency before entering private enterprise, you gained experience in and an appreciation for the region, particularly Oman, which was then transforming itself into a modern nation of strategic geopolitical significance. After retiring to Williamsburg, you became a resolute advocate for increased opportunities for the study of the Middle East through leadership roles in the Reeves Center. Scholarships from the James H. Critchfield Memorial Endowment have supported more than 50 William & Mary students studying in Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Yemen, Morocco, and the United Arab Emirates and Oman. The Critchfield Center in Middle Eastern Studies, held on campus every 2 years, has brought in renowned scholars in the field to Williamsburg. Just as you have embraced William & Mary, the college has embraced you as one of our own. In 2005, you received the Lord Botetourt Award, given to the friends who have contributed enormously to William & Mary's progress. The following year, you officially became an alumna as an honorary member of the class of 2006.
Lois Matthews Critchfield, for your life of public service and devotion to the study of the Middle East, William & Mary is proud to honor you. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Board of Visitors and the ancient royal charter of the College of William & Mary in Virginia, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Public Service, honoris causa.
Each year at Charter Day, we recognize 2 members of our faculty and 1 student who, in the judgment of their colleagues, have vision and wisdom in the Jeffersonian tradition. We also recognize a student who, in the spirit of James Monroe, has a powerful commitment to good citizenship and service. Vice President for Student Affairs, Ginger Ambler, Alina Stern, class of 2012, and Provost Michael Halloran will assist in these award presentations.
The second of 3 United States presidents to graduate from the College of William & Mary, James Monroe lived according to a principle summarized in his first inaugural address: "From a just responsibility, I will never shrink." 6 years ago, through the generosity of the Owens Foundation, the college initiated a student award to recognize President Monroe's lifelong commitment to service, leadership, and active citizenship. The Monroe Prize recognizes the William & Mary student who best uses these qualities to lead others for the greater good. This year, we honor Taylor Nelson. Taylor, please join me. Taylor, When you arrived at William & Mary as a sharp scholar, you already possessed both an emotional and a scholarly interest in healthcare, having volunteered at the Northern Neck Free Health Clinic for many years. Your deep commitment to healthcare led to internships with the local school system and local health clinics. Your research on children and healthcare has garnered multiple grants and given you the chance to present your findings at conferences both in the United States and abroad. You ventured to Washington, D.C. to intern with Global Playground, and later to Ireland, where you conducted research on social entrepreneurship at Trinity College Dublin and also interned with Ashoka Ireland. You have been instrumental in developing branch-out alternative break trips since freshman year. Now, as a leader and executive board member, you relish the chance to empower students across this campus to increase their awareness of social justice issues while inspiring them to become active citizens in their everyday lives. Taylor, you carry forward James Monroe's legacy of public engagement of service to others. You lead by bringing people from different backgrounds together, and you work for the good of all. Congratulations.
Well, it's always particularly exciting for me to present an award to someone named Taylor. And Taylor, I'm really delighted to award you the James Monroe Prize in Civic Leadership for your extraordinary service to others.
In 1997, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial Foundation of Charlottesville endowed the Thomas Jefferson Prize in Natural Philosophy to be awarded annually to a William & Mary student who has demonstrated superior academic performance and remarkable potential for future achievement, and whose work embraces the 18th century idea of natural philosophy. This year, that student is Brian Rabe. Brian, will you please join me? Brian, 3 faculty members in the Department of Biology have raved about you, declaring that you may be the best student they have ever had, one of those who is found only once in a career. As a Beckman Scholar and Goldwater Scholar, and winner of the Best Undergraduate Poster Prize at the Society for Developmental Biology, you are poised for a remarkable career as a scientist. You have managed to maintain a perfect 4.0 GPA, while pursuing a double major in biology and chemistry. Yeah. You wish to be at the forefront of multidisciplinary science, and you have applied to top biomedical doctoral programs at the interface between biology and chemistry. Both Professor Saha and Professor Bradley observed that your incredible level of activity, combined with your very high skill level, resulted in co-authorship on 2 papers while you were still a junior. Professor Forsythe says that your command of science and your love of science and research is among the most intense he has ever encountered. Professor Saha describes you as, quote, an absolute star. Brian, your professors continue to be inspired by you as they know that in the spirit of Thomas Jefferson and William Small, you embody the excellence captured by the Thomas Jefferson Prize in Natural Philosophy. Congratulations.
Well, all I can say, Brian, is we're counting on you for at least 2 Nobel Prizes. That's quite remarkable. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
My name is Elena Stern, class of 2012. I had the great privilege to serve as one of Dr. Tierney's research assistants during my undergraduate years at the college. One question that he asked me countless times was, are we creating new knowledge today? More than any other professor I've encountered, Dr. Tierney not only has the brilliance to teach students to create new knowledge and lead them in the process of discovery, but also the humility to want to learn from his students and instill in them the love of learning he exudes. Through his ability to teach, guide, and empower, Dr. Tierney turns students who are content to passively receive knowledge from their teachers into researchers who actively endeavor to question assumptions, seek truth, and create new knowledge. I am honored to introduce him today as the recipient of the Jefferson Teaching Award. The Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award was established as a tribute to those professors who, through encouragement and example, helped to shape the young Jefferson. The award honors younger members of the faculty who've inspired in their students a love of learning. Dr. Tierney not only teaches his students to love the pursuit of new knowledge, but also teaches them that the value of knowledge is defined by its ability to make the world a better place. Dr. Tierney endows his students with the knowledge and skills to understand the issues facing an increasingly complex world and the audacity to believe they can change that world for the better. His dedication to his students infuses everything that he does, from his classes to his research, to his service to the campus community, to always being willing to make the time to meet up with the student to discuss their hopes and concerns for the future. I am so grateful for all of the guidance, support, and encouragement Dr. Tierney has given me throughout the years and will undoubtedly continue to give me in the years to come. I truly cannot think of anyone more deserving of the Jefferson Teaching Award. I am so pleased to introduce Professor Michael Tierney.
Congratulations, Mary. I'll give it to you after you have spoken.
Chancellor Gates, President Reevely, Provost Halloran, colleagues, students, and friends, thank you. I'm honored to accept the 2013 Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award. The first time I entered this building was in August of 1983. Before the advent of the Banner class registration system, students entered William & Mary Hall with handwritten schedules, while staff from the registrar's office doled out a finite number of golden tickets that were disguised as 3x5 cards. I was a freshman frantically trying to decide between calculus and a course in the religion department that was called death. These sounded like very similar courses to me. But my orientation aide insisted that death with Professor Hans Tiefel would change my life, and it did. Professor Tiefel taught me how to learn, and while I didn't know it at the time, he was my first serious role model as a teacher. He taught me to read between the lines of text, how to write clearly so that others wouldn't have to read between the lines, and most importantly, how to take other people's ideas seriously. Most of the teaching I do today, both inside and outside the classroom, is inspired by things that I learned here as a student. I've had great teachers and thus many people to thank for this award. Mark Fowler in the philosophy department taught me to question ideas that I believed were already settled. David Dessler shocked and inspired me when I was a student by asking me to co-author a paper with him. After having him as a teacher in 2 seminars, Joel Schwartz encouraged me to consider a career as a teacher rather than the Marine Corps. Clay Clemens showed me the value of patience as he spent countless hours with me as I struggled to finish a senior honors thesis. And Ron Rappaport showed me how to engage students outside the classroom, whether at public lectures, at his dining room table, or the Greenleaf. These were all great places to learn about teaching. Note that these are not mentors who happened to cross paths with me for a very brief time. These are tenured faculty who were drawn to William & Mary and spent their entire careers at this institution. Some things have not changed much at William & Mary over the past 30 years. The faculty still take undergraduate education very seriously. Most classes are still relatively small, though not as small as I remember. And professors still take a strong interest in the intellectual and personal development of their students. However, some things have changed. Faculty are now producing more and better research than they were 30 years ago, and this is a vital part of any great university, one that is too often lost in debates about higher education today, that push us to turn out more students at a lower cost. The new proposed curriculum in arts and sciences promises that faculty will bring their best research into the classroom in order to further integrate teaching and research. This is certainly a step in the right direction. However, we are poised to go even further. We can and should include our students in the creation of new knowledge. In my own department, as in many others, students are engaged in cutting-edge research projects that involve them in every phase of knowledge creation: research design, field research, data collection, analysis, and the presentation of research at conferences, in briefings with policymakers, and through publication in peer-reviewed outlets. Students learn and hone transferable skills in the process. Of course, the benefit is reciprocal. These students have enhanced and contributed significantly to the research that I've done. In fact, many of my co-authors are now current and former William & Mary students. The good news is, if faculty in my department hired over the past 5 years are representative, and I assume they are, they're smarter, they're better trained, and they're much more productive than those of us with more gray hair. And they're committed to making their students active learners and research collaborators. If provided with the resources and incentives, this new generation of faculty can dramatically increase the range of research opportunities for William & Mary students. There's more good news. Like the faculty, William & Mary students are more than up to the task. It has become a cliche among those of us who were former students that are now on the faculty that we couldn't have gotten into William & Mary with the current standards. And it's true. The students that are currently enrolled at William & Mary are the best we've ever had. So how can we provide this distinctive type of liberal arts education with engaged research? Of course, this approach to education requires sustained student-faculty interaction. It will not take place in a 200-person classroom. It will not occur by hiring more temporary and adjunct instructors, and it will not be incorporated into distance learning classes. There are many universities today seeking to increase efficiency and gain a comparative advantage by moving in these directions. But our comparative advantage is a liberal arts education paired with mentored research opportunities. To provide these opportunities in this environment, we need to create and commit resources to this end. Our new financial plan for the sustenance of the college recognizes this principle, that our graduates will provide support to maintain and enhance the academic experience that transformed so many of us. And our academic plan must be committed to this same principle. If William & Mary's liberal arts approach can turn out presidents, Supreme Court justices, defense secretaries, and even Daily Show hosts, if William & Mary's growing research capacity can produce scientific breakthroughs in particle physics and help the U.S. government forecast terrorist attacks and attract record amounts of external funding to support this research, then faculty, administrators, and alums can work together to combine these two distinctive strengths. It's time for us to double down on liberal arts education and teaching through engaged research. We should find the resources to reinvest in our comparative advantage. I'd like to close by thanking my parents for encouraging me to attend William & Mary, and my wife, Jennifer, for supporting me through my exceptionally long journey from being a PhD student to college professor. I'm extremely grateful to have been selected to receive this award, and I'm thankful for the opportunity every day to work with William & Mary students. Thank you very much.
Mike Tierney, it is clear, pellucidly clear, why you are such a marvelous recipient of the 2013 Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award. Marvelously clear. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
The most prestigious award we bestow annually upon a faculty member is the Thomas Jefferson Award, named after the college's most distinguished alumnus, in order to recognize a faculty member who has demonstrated a deep devotion and outstanding service to the college, and whose life, character, and influence on the college exemplify the principles of Thomas Jefferson. This year, the college presents the Jefferson Award to Teresa V. Longo, Associate Professor of Hispanic Studies in the Department of Modern Languages and Literature. Accomplished as a teacher, she received the Thomas Jefferson Teaching Award in 1996 and now becomes only the third professor in the college's history to win both Jefferson Awards. And as a scholar with an expertise in Latin American literature and culture, Teresa has played a pivotal role in affecting change and helping the faculty to find the best structures for their best work. She has been instrumental in transforming the Spanish program into Hispanic studies, in expanding international initiatives, including helping us to establish the Confucius Institute, and most recently, and most heroically, in co-leading the charge in revamping the undergraduate curriculum in a way that combines rigor, integration, and imagination to provide our students with an unsurpassed education in the liberal arts. Teresa has been an invaluable colleague to many of us, and through her untiring efforts, deep collegiality, and shrewd judgment, has strengthened Mr. Jefferson's first university. I am pleased to introduce the 2013 recipient of the Thomas Jefferson Award, Teresa Longo. Teresa.
Thank you, Provost Halloran, Chancellor Gates, President Reevely. Thank you to my colleagues in Modern Languages and Literatures, Global Studies, the Arts and Sciences Dean's Office, the Curriculum Review Steering Committee, and the Educational Policy Committee. You make working here a pleasure. Thank you to my family, to Buddy for embracing my work life so wholeheartedly, and to Alex, Sophie, and Max for being here. As a faculty member at William & Mary, it is my good fortune to study and teach Latin American literature. Like most literary scholars, I think the imagination is a powerful tool. It helps us understand why we're here. It shows us that we have choices and that where we stand matters. I have decided to use my time at the podium to speak about a literary masterpiece from Latin America, Garcia Marquez' 100 Años de Soledad, 100 Years of Solitude. It occurs to me that this book might have something to say to us today. Since its publication in 1967, 100 Years of Solitude has generated enormous interest among students and scholars. Some people read it as a family romance, others as a history of the Americas, and still others as a treatise on memory. I intend to emphasize the latter today. It's Charter Day, after all, and memory matters. But first, I should confess that I am obsessed with this book. I read it once a year and I teach it every chance I get. Somehow, whether I go looking for it or not, 100 Años' aesthetic finds its way into my work. It helps me understand why I'm here. If you're not familiar with this book, I should tell you that Garcia Marquez won a Nobel Prize for it in 1982. I should tell you that, among other things, Garcia Marquez's masterpiece is about the founding of a community, a marvelous, archetypical community which Marquez called Macondo. In my most recent reading, yesterday actually, I noted a few provocative similarities between Macondo and our community, the College of William & Mary. Macondo, as it turns out, was built near a swamp, and years before its founding, European settlers had succumbed to the heat, the humidity, and the mosquitoes there. In my most recent reading, I noted that Macondo came into being officially by colonial decree. Its residents, highly cognizant of their colonial heritage, organized elaborate celebrations to mark the moment of their birth. And finally, in my most recent reading, I noted with great interest that Macondo educated a national hero, a brilliantly creative figure whose egalitarian thinking sparked a revolution. I'm sure you get the point. It would be misleading, though, to extend the historical analogy any further. In purely historical terms, we aren't exactly the heroes of Garcia Marquez's epic tale. If you've read the part about a certain banana company, you know what I'm saying. However, on the question of memory, what we choose to remember and how we remember, the Marquesian imagination may serve us well today. It seems that his eminently human characters, the inhabitants of Macondo, suffered from serious memory problems. Oblivious to the world beyond their shores, they got trapped on occasion in the circular nostalgia of their own stories, with no apparent way out. At other times, though, the people of Macondo hit the mark well, remembering their aspirations, remembering their deeply egalitarian dreams, remembering their commitment to the public good. And in those moments, the citizens of Macondo, not unlike faculty, staff, students, and friends of the College of William and Mary, saw in each other the image of their communion. On that note, I wish you a joyful, aspirational Charter Day. It is my honor to share the moment with you.
Teresa, you have contributed so wonderfully to the health, happiness, and progress of the college. If only we could clone you. Congratulations. Former Jefferson Award recipients, wherever you may be in the hall, in honor of your own marvelous contributions to the college, please stand and let us salute you. We come now to the 24th Chancellor of the College of William and Mary and our alumnus, William and Mary class of 1965, the Honorable Robert M. Gates. As we all know, Bob Gates had an absolutely brilliant career in public service, culminating in his time as a U.S. Secretary of Defense, serving first a Republican president, a very Republican president, and then a Democratic president, a very Democratic president. This is a death-defying feat. Bob Gates is the only mortal to have attempted it, much less succeeded at it. That he was asked, indeed entreated, to serve both presidents is a testament to the enormous regard our country has for his experience, his wisdom, his integrity. And it's fair to say that when Secretary Gates laid down his mantle at the Defense Department, he was, hands down, the most respected and esteemed person in American government. And it's simply great that he's now the college's chancellor. Well, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chancellor, Bob, please come and regale us.
It's great to be back on campus, even in February. Of course, it's great to be anywhere but Washington, D.C., where this week I would be testifying in front of Congress on next year's defense budget, which they would promptly shelve and go on their President's Day recess. Not once in the 5 years I presented a budget did the Congress pass a defense appropriations bill by the start of the fiscal year. And in fact, most times, we didn't even get our appropriation until midway through the year, and a couple of years not at all. Fiscal year 2013 started last October 1st. As of February 8th, there is still no appropriation for the Defense Department. The world's largest and most complex organization for years now has been forced to live paycheck to paycheck. And Congress complains about inefficiency at the Defense Department. Well, Taylor, you don't have to worry about any of that because you hardly get any money at all from the government. And that is the topic of my remarks today. First, though, a personal aside. When I was president of Texas A&M, and let me just say that if Texas A&M had had a football team and a quarterback in 2006, like they had in 2012, I might never have become defense secretary. But as I was saying, when I was president of Texas A&M, I would sometimes wonder whether it was scarier to be director of CIA and responsible for a vast global network of spies, or to be responsible for nearly 50,000 students between the ages of 18 and 25. And then, literally overnight, I found myself responsible for more than 2 million men and women in uniform, most of them the same age as those students. And with respect to the Aggies who entered military service during my tenure as secretary, I never forgot that I was the one who had signed and handed them their diploma, and then as defense secretary signed their deployment orders to Iraq and Afghanistan, and then too often signed the condolence letters to their families as well. And so from me to you, a heartfelt thanks to the students, faculty, and staff of William & Mary who have so warmly welcomed our veterans to this campus. And thanks above all to those who have served, both current and past. The cause of public higher education has been a keen interest of mine, even preceding my time at A&M, including when at CIA I funded basic research on a number of campuses. But today, in light of our national debate on priorities, I'd like to offer some thoughts about, first, the historical importance of state-funded universities and research and development as a public investment and a public good, and second, the stiff financial challenges faced by public universities, the most immediate being the possibility of sequestration. I've always been a straight shooter, but with the election behind us, I feel particularly unleashed. State support for higher education in Virginia was first provided by Their Majesties King William and Queen Mary in the charter for this college, dated 320 years ago today. Now, they did not just give license to establish the college, but were also pleased, and I quote, to extend our royal bounty and munificence toward the erection and foundation of the said college, earnestly desiring that as far as in us lies, true philosophy and other good and liberal arts and sciences may be promoted. But they went further. They actually provided the money and the land to build the college. As described in the charter, they granted, again I quote, the whole and entire sum of 1,985 pounds, 14 shillings, and 10 pence of good and lawful money of England, to be laid out and applied toward the building, erecting, and adorning the said college, and to no other use, intent, or purpose whatever. But they weren't done. In the charter, their majesties also, out of their bounteous and special grace, granted to the trustees 10,000 acres of land on the south side of the Blackwater Swamp, and also another 10,000 acres of land lying and being in that neck of land commonly called Pamunkey Neck, between the forks or branches of the York River. Thus, from its first day, this ancient college was seen by government as a public good, an investment in the future, and royal government was willing to put its money where its royal mouth was. Fast forward 169 years through history to passage in 1862 of the Morrill Act, establishing land-grant universities and colleges all across America. An act of faith in our future in the midst of a great civil war. And then again, speed on to the first GI Bill in 1944, enabling millions of veterans who had served in war now to go to college. It is not a great stretch to assert that the economic preeminence of this country, and I would argue our national security and international influence as well, are due in no small measure to these two visionary acts. The first manifested a national conviction 150 years ago that our future as a nation required that higher education become easily available and affordable to the average citizen, and that teaching and research, particularly then in agriculture and engineering, were vital components of our economic development. In the second act, during another great and terrible war, the nation said that those who had served in uniform should be able to go to college and thereby become a great generation a second time over by launching the astonishing American post-war peacetime economy. It is due to these two acts of vision and courage, both in the midst of awful wars, that we have prospered through continuing investment in education and research. The standard of living of Americans in the years to come will depend in large measure on the quality of jobs Americans will hold. And the quality of those jobs will depend primarily on the quality and quantity of education they receive. New York Times columnist Tom Friedman last fall wrote, "My prediction is the biggest domestic issue in the next 4 years will be how we respond to changes in technology, globalization, and markets that have in a very short space of time made the decent-waged, middle-skilled job, the backbone of the middle class, increasingly obsolete. The only decent-waged jobs will be high-skilled ones," he went on. The answer to that challenge will require a new level of political imagination, a combination of educational reforms and unprecedented collaboration between business, universities, and government to change how workers are trained and empowered to keep learning. Symbolized by the Morrill Act and the GI Bill, we Americans agreed as a society a long time ago that college-educated citizens benefit the whole society. The economic, political, and social benefit accrues to us all, and not just those who receive the education. That was the primary reason for the creation 150 years ago of the land-grant college system. It's why early in the 20th century, universal primary and secondary schooling was supported. It's why a system of superior state universities was created and generously supported, and scholarships were given to needy students. It's why the GI Bill was passed. Making a college education available to citizens at every socioeconomic level was seen broadly as a worthwhile investment in the social and economic future of our individual states and of the country as a whole. And as Friedman suggested, that investment is probably more crucial today than ever in our history. Higher education has had a vital role in our national security as well. And one of the key milestones was the passage of the National Defense Education Act in 1958, a bill that greatly increased the federal government's role in funding education at every level. What spurred government action was the launch of Sputnik, a Soviet satellite, a year earlier, an event that galvanized the nation to ensure that we wouldn't fall behind the Soviet Union in math and science. Educators were often the ones leading the charge. Some called the Cold War conflict a competition in brains. The historian Arthur Schlesinger Jr. said more colorfully that the United States must return to the acceptance of eggheads and ideas if it is to meet the Russian challenge. And indeed, the years proved him right. Throughout the Cold War, universities were vital centers of new research, often funded by the government, and also new ideas and even new fields of study, such as game theory and criminology, along with basic research in the hard sciences to support our country's defense and space exploration needs. Federally funded low-cost loans and fellowships made graduate school broadly available for middle-class students like me. It seems that today, though, those visionary, forward-looking statesmen, the politicians who supported higher education as a public good, a vital public investment, are all in our rear-view mirror. In recent years, we've seen a gradual abandonment of the principle that higher education is a public good, and correspondingly the emergence of a view that higher education is a private consumer good of value only to the individual receiving it. And this trend has manifested itself vividly in the dwindling state financial support provided to public higher education. For years, state funding for universities has been falling, tuition rising, and students are too often borrowing more than they can afford. According to the Carnegie Foundation, during the 1990s, public colleges and universities drew more than half their operating support from taxpayer sources. Today, money from state coffers provides about 30% of funding, and the story is much worse in many individual cases, including here in Virginia. At some of the nation's most prominent public universities, such as William & Mary and the University of Virginia, state funding contributes less than 15% of university operating support. According to an Illinois State University study, between 2011 and 2012, state aid to universities declined by nearly 8%, the largest such decrease in 50 years. And the cuts are not a one-time phenomenon. The University of Washington, in my home state, now has lost 50% of its state funding in just the last 4 years. Per student support for public universities has been reduced by more than 20% in 17 states and by more than 10% in another 15. And I believe these statistics understate the decline. Public universities have gone from being state-supported to state-assisted to state-located. And the less financial support the politicians provide, the more control they want. Last year, I was struck by the fact that student loans became an issue in the Congress and in the presidential campaigns. The controversy was whether interest rates should be allowed to rise, and if not, how to pay for the extra cost to the government. I found it striking because when I was a student, this matter would have been mostly a non-issue, at least for those of us attending state colleges or university. Tuition then was either ridiculously low by today's standards, or in some cases free. As I sadly shared with you last year, my out-of-state tuition here at William & Mary in the fall of 1961 was $361 a semester. A disturbing aspect of this change is its consequences for low and middle-income students. College has been a traditional path of upward mobility, and this has particularly true for students who are the first in their family to attend college, as my brother and I both were. Consider that until the 1960s, tuition at the University of California system was free for all state residents, and fees remained very low for years after. While programs for the elderly, which now consume more than half of all federal spending, are considered politically untouchable, there is no such resistance to cutting support for higher education, an investment in future generations. To be blunt, Americans are mortgaging the future of our country to pay benefits to my generation while sacrificing the engines of economic and social growth for the coming generations. This is a formula for national decline. While the funding shortfalls at universities hit economically disadvantaged students and middle-class students hardest, they also affect the ability of universities to conduct basic research, a special concern of mine. What is discovered in research one day is taught in the classroom the next, and then employed as a tool of economic development, innovation, and in some cases, national defense. The notion that teaching in universities serves students and research does not, and that the two are at cross purposes instead of fundamentally linked, integrated into one another at the core, betrays on the part of the purveyors a profound misunderstanding of how great universities get that way and stay that way, and a misunderstanding of the entire enterprise of higher education. Our university system in the United States is universally acknowledged to be the best in the world, and now some politicians want to screw that up too. Federal funding for research and development overall has long been in decline. Between the 1970s and 1990s, it fell as a percentage of gross domestic product by more than 50% in the physical sciences and engineering. Federal R&D funding increased slightly in recent years, but has resumed its long-term slump. Just as China and South Korea are increasing their funding 10% year over year. In a knowledge economy, American jobs will depend more on scientific research than they did in the 1950s, and yet we spend much less on research now as a share of GDP. Fighting against this trend as Defense Secretary, I tried to protect and even increase science and technology funding in the new Minerva project, even as the rest of the defense budget began to flatten and decline. All of these challenges facing America's public universities will come to a head in the months ahead. Without a new agreement between the Congress and the President, $1.2 trillion in mindless so-called sequestration cuts will take effect. The effect on national defense and military readiness is now well known. The leadership of the Pentagon and the aerospace industry have made sure of that. But less well known is the impact on important domestic functions of government: Homeland Security, air traffic control, federal law enforcement, NASA, the National Institutes of Health, higher education, and related to the last three organizations, funding for basic research and development. According to the American Association for the Advancement of Science, under sequestration, federal research and development funding will be reduced by nearly $60 billion over the next 5 years. Cuts of this magnitude would have significant impacts on the pursuit of science, research, and innovation in this country. They also come at a time when federal R&D spending has already declined by 10% in real dollars just since fiscal year 2010. My hope is that now the election is behind us, whatever adults remain in the two political parties will make the compromises necessary to put this country's finances back in order. We will all pay the price for shortchanging education, research, and other investments in the future. It will be felt in the decline of America's quality of life, standards of living, and global influence. So how to alter this increasingly bleak landscape? First and easiest, of course, would be to have leaders supportive of the vision of 1693, 1862, and 1944. but I wouldn't bet on that. So what else can we do? Such a challenging environment makes it imperative for public universities to find new ways both to contain costs and expand opportunities to more students. In short, to reform the way we do business. No easy task, I know. Since leaving the Pentagon, I've reflected on the similarities between the three big public institutions I've been privileged to lead: the Defense Department, CIA, and a huge university. All very large, proud, tradition-bound organizations staffed by career professionals who don't always welcome change. But we need to think boldly about the delivery and financing of higher education writ large, similar to the robust debate and experimentation taking place in the healthcare arena. Both fields have seen massive, unsustainable cost increases in recent years without corresponding improvements in outcomes. One approach many are taking to cut costs is through automation and the use of online education. But in that regard, a cautionary note from an old guy. As a graduate and now chancellor of this great teaching university, I only hope we don't go so overboard in the online world that we lose one of the fundamental benefits of higher education: live, in-person interactions with faculty and other students. This is especially important in an emailing, texting, tweeting, Facebooking world where students may forget or never learn how to have a real face-to-face conversation or dialogue with real people of different backgrounds and views. However, if public colleges and universities don't reform themselves to contain costs, improve access, and increase graduation rates, federal and state governments will step in, and that can only be bad news. Because like the dinosaur, government has a heavy foot, a small brain, and no fine motor skills. Believe me, I know. And I pause here to give credit where credit is due. Despite extremely low levels of state support, both William & Mary and the University of Virginia are ranked by the Princeton Review as being among the top 5 best values for students in America among public universities. This is a remarkable tribute to the leadership, faculties, and staff at both universities. Today we celebrate the 320th anniversary of a visionary act. Two monarchs in a distant capital agreed to the request of a handful of frontiersmen to establish in the wilderness an institution of higher learning, a college. And as we celebrate, we must ask ourselves, where are the visionaries of today compared to those of 1693, 1862, and 1944. Visionary leaders who understand that higher education is the engine driving America to a better future for all its citizens, not a consumer good, but a public investment and a public good. The single most important driver of opportunity and prosperity at home and for American influence and idealism abroad. As we confront that question, as I said last year, in the great and urgent endeavors that lie before us, I have no doubt that the graduates and scholars of William & Mary, this community of learning, listening, and working through issues, rooted in the original soil and basic principles of American liberty, have a special role and a special obligation to be a part of this solution. And just as James Blair, King William and Queen Mary, Abraham Lincoln, and Franklin D. Roosevelt believed and understood, that solution must include public investment in higher education so it is available to all for the benefit of all. Happy birthday. God bless you, and may God bless this ancient college, this commonwealth, and our country.
Well, Mr. Chancellor, that's two really wonderful Charter Day orations in a row. This could become habit forming. Those were powerful and prophetic remarks, and as I have said to you on prior occasions, you really should have run for president. William & Mary has almost 87,500 still living alumni spread across all 50 states, the District of Columbia, 104 other countries, and 6 continents. No alumnus or alumna has been discovered yet in Antarctica, but it's just a matter of time. The Alumni Medallion is the highest honor the William & Mary Alumni Association bestows on a graduate of the college. Honorees are chosen for extraordinarily distinguished service to the college and more. Let me name those who will receive the Alumni Medallion tomorrow morning. When I mention your name, medallion people, please stand up and keep standing until everybody is up and you have collectively basked in our applause. D. Bruce Christian, class of 1973. Nancy, wait a minute. Nancy Wanell Matthews, class of 1976. And Donald G. Owens, class of 1965, undergraduate, law school, 1971. Now, I hope many of us can be on hand tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in the Sadler Center for the medallion ceremonies. They're always a lot of fun and very meaningful. Everyone is welcome. All right, we come to closing remarks. As you know, I don't do long closing remarks. So, as the Chancellor said, happy birthday to us all. The school that binds us all together has reached its 320th glorious year. Well, what do you do for a 320-year-old? Is there some precious metal expressive of our deep appreciation and affection, some special tradition beyond those involved in these Charter Day ceremonies? Well, I couldn't think of anything, but stick with us in another 180 years on the occasion of the college's 500th birthday. I'm sure we'll have it nailed. I did look back to 1693 to see what else happened that year, the year the college was born. Turns out the pickings weren't all that frisky. There was Louis XIV's, the Sun King's attack on Heidelberg, the French fleet's defeat of the Dutch and English at the Battle of Lagos, and the eruption, yet again, of Mount Etna. I think in retrospect, clearly William & Mary's birth was the hit of 1693. Now, like Mount Etna, we have lasted, even erupting occasionally. And of course, we expect rocks to last, even exploding ones. We have a separate academic department geology, founded on that simple proposition. We expect buildings to last. Europe is scattered with monuments, castles, churches mostly, testifying to the excellence of medieval architecture and engineering, but human institutions, like humans themselves, are more vulnerable, more likely to be gone with the wind. And William and Mary could easily have been gone with the wind, swept up and blown away by two wars, each of which blew squarely through the campus with great destructive force. First, the Revolutionary War came our way. The campus was occupied initially by the British, and later, in more friendly but still destructive fashion, by the French. And there was a complete loss of our English financial support. Then our campus became literally a front line for 3 years during the Civil War, caught between converging armies, Federal and Confederate. Federal forces moving up the peninsula toward Richmond, and Confederate forces moving from Richmond to protect the Confederate capital. And they met in Williamsburg on our campus around the Wren building. We were undone, our facilities lacerated, burned, and for all practical purposes destroyed, our endowment gone, our people scattered. But the college rose phoenix-like from the ashes, proving itself an indomitably durable human institution in spite of catastrophic human failings. The future often does go to the broken field runner. What remains for William and Mary after 320 years is the dignity and the poise, the self-confidence and the staying power, the pervasive excellence that comes from rising above life's outrageous slings and arrows. This magnificent institution, full of life's promise, marches on to even greater heights. In sum, William and Mary came early, and William and Mary will stay late. Of that, I have no doubt. So, happy birthday indeed to all us members of the college's tribe. William and Mary, you richly deserve our admiration and our affection. Indeed, you richly deserve our unabashed love. All right, it's time to cheer the alma mater of the nation on its 320th birthday. As usual, I will propose the cheer, and then we will all respond. And what we will all respond is relatively simple. It's just 320. That's 320, you know why. 320, 320, 320. Everybody got that? Friends, please join me in a resounding round of 320s, 3 in a row, to celebrate our College of William and Mary on its 320th birthday. 320, 320, 320. No birthday, yes. No birthday is complete without singing happy birthday. Ebony Expressions will now do the deed. Ebony Expressions, sing.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, William and Mary. Happy birthday to you.
Here's a story all about how that green, that gold shark blazed right down. And we'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. We'll tell you about the school from across from Richard Square. It was founded by Blair in 1693 and attended by big shots in its history. Included TJ and James Monroe. William and Mary is the place to go.
Happy birthday, William and Mary. Love that green, love that gold. Happy birthday, William and Mary. Our dear college, love of old. God our Father, hear our voices, listen to our cry. Bless the college of our fathers, let her never die. We love you, William and Mary. Ooh, yeah. We love you, William and Mary. Ooh, yeah. We love you, William and Mary. Ooh, yeah. We love you, William and Mary. Ooh, yeah.
Have any expressions? That was great. You know, this is the second year in a row we've had an absolutely rousing rendition of Happy Birthday. Creative, passionate, good. What other school gets sung that sort of Happy Birthday on its Advent Day? None. Students, once again, in addition to picking up Charter Day pins to wear on your graduation robes and on all other state occasions, please make your mark, sign your name on the scrolls, the 2013 Charter Day scrolls that will go into the university archives for all time coming. I'm told that pins and scrolls will be near the ticket window on the Commons side of William and Mary Hall as you leave. Now let's all stand for the Alma Mater. And after we have sung the Alma Mater, during the recessional, if those of you out there will stay where you are until the official party has successfully retreated, that will make the official party happy. A very, very wonderful Charter Day 2013 to us all.
Hark the students' voices swelling, strong and true and clear. Alma marches love their telling, ringing far and near. William and Mary, loved of old, hark the tree.